Let's dive into the complex personal history and the many marriages of this action icon. Jean-Claude Van Damme, revered as a titan of action cinema and martial arts, is one of the few living legends in the industry. Despite his celebrated status, the polished veneer of perfection that surrounded him shattered to reveal a life marked by tragedy and turbulence. From tumultuous love stories to scandals involving his son, Jean-Claude's journey has been riddled with obstacles. Furthermore, the relentless grip of addiction cast a shadow over his once glamorous existence. This video will help you explore the negative stages of Jean-Claude's life. You may have heard about Jean-Claude Van Damme's love life, but it is actually more complicated than you think. In 1980, Van Damme began his journey into marriage by marrying Maria Rodriguez. However, their union was short-lived and ended in divorce, paving the way for his next romantic chapter. He then married Cynthia Derderian, but like the characters in his films facing adversaries, their relationship also succumbed to tensions, resulting in another divorce. Undeterred by these setbacks, Van Damme sought love again with Cynthia Derderian, showing a resilience reminiscent of his on-screen persona. However, their reunion was not destined to last, and eventually the couple separated again. Van Damme's romantic odyssey took a new turn when he found love with professional bodybuilder Gladys Portugues. Their relationship flourished, culminating in marriage, and they welcomed 2 children into their lives. Despite their initial happiness, their union faced its share of challenges, ending in a separation in 1992. After his breakup with Portugues, Van Damme began a whirlwind romance with Darcy Lapierre, whom he married shortly after they met. However, their marriage encountered turbulence, exacerbated by Van Damme's affair with pop star Kylie Minogue, his co-star in the 1994 film Street Fighter. Amidst the turbulence, Van Damme's relationship with Lapierre collapsed, leading him back into the arms of Gladys Portugues, the woman with whom he shared his most enduring bond. Their reunion signaled a new stability in Van Damme's romantic life, a shift from the turbulence that had characterized his previous relationships. Despite challenges, including Portugues filing for divorce in 2015, Van Damme and Portugues demonstrated resilience, similar to the protagonists of his films, overcoming obstacles and reconciling once more. Their enduring marriage, which has lasted from 1999 until today, testifies to their commitment and constant love for each other. Beyond his own life, the legal troubles of his family members also brought unwanted attention. Furthermore, the incident involving Jean-Claude Van Damme's son, Nicholas von Varenberg, in September 2017 sent shockwaves through both the Van Damme family and the public, highlighting a dark chapter that unfolded far from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Van Varenberg's arrest in Tempe, Arizona, for allegedly holding his roommate hostage with a knife marked a sharp departure from the controlled violence usually associated with his father's on-screen characters. The chain of events leading to von Varenberg's arrest began with a seemingly minor incident. A person was filmed by a surveillance camera punching an elevator wall in the University House apartment complex near Arizona State University. However, what appeared to be a routine disturbance escalated into a harrowing ordeal when law enforcement officers followed the trail of blood from the elevator to von Varenberg's 10th floor apartment. Upon arriving at the scene, police were faced with a tense standoff, during which von Varenberg allegedly held his roommate hostage with a knife for 2 hours. The gravity of the situation highlighted the severity of the altercation and raised concerns about Van Varenberg's mental state and his propensity for violence. Following his arrest, Van Varenberg faced a series of legal consequences, including criminal charges stemming from the standoff. Despite paying a $10,000 bond, he found himself entangled in a legal battle that threatened to tarnish both his reputation and his family's legacy. Ultimately, Van Varenberg chose to plead guilty to disorderly conduct, a decision that resulted in an 18-month probation sentence. The resolution of the case offered a kind of closure, but the incident served as a poignant reminder of the challenges faced by individuals grappling with personal struggles and the consequences of their actions. However, not all of his children followed a path of trouble. His daughter carved out her own unique legacy. In addition to Jean-Claude Van Damme's son, he also had some issues with his own daughter, Bianca Van Damme. The daughter of action icon Jean-Claude Van Damme is a force to be reckoned with, a combination of grace, beauty, and formidable martial arts mastery. Despite her striking appearance, characterized by her brown hair and full model-like lips. Bianca is not just another face in the crowd. Beneath her appearance lies an exceptional martial artist with a passion for breaking stereotypes and empowering others. Bianca's journey into the world of martial arts was not something she initially embraced willingly. At the tender age of 7, her bodybuilder mother, recognizing the importance of self-discipline, insisted that Bianca dive into the world of martial arts, a decision met with reluctance by the young girl, whose interests leaned toward ballet and speed skating. However, fate decided otherwise when an injury directed her path toward the world of combat sports. Despite her initial reluctance, Bianca fully embraced martial arts, recognizing their transformative potential, both physically and mentally. Through her dedication and perseverance, she honed her skills, eventually becoming a formidable martial artist in her own right. Bianca's philosophy on femininity and strength testifies to her multifaceted nature. She embodies the idea that femininity and physical power are not mutually exclusive, advocating for a balance between grace and power. As she eloquently puts it, "I want to show little girls and little boys that you can be physical and feminine, that you can cross your legs at the dinner table and then kick butt in a nice and feminine way." Her talent and dedication to her craft opened opportunities for her to work alongside her father, Jean-Claude Van Damme, in the fast-paced world of action cinema. Bianca made her debut alongside her father in The Shepherd, Border Patrol in 2008, and subsequently participated in an impressive series of films, collaborating with her father on a total of 7 projects. Through these experiences, she continued to refine her skills, confirming her status as a rising star in the field of action cinema. Bianca Van Damme started under the surname Van Varenberg, a deliberate choice aimed at forging her own identity, distinct from the towering legacy of her famous father, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Despite her lineage, Bianca was determined to make her mark in the entertainment industry on her own terms, freed from the weight of her father's illustrious reputation. However, as Bianca's career progressed and her confidence in her abilities grew, she eventually embraced her family name, proudly taking the name Van Damme. This decision symbolized a coming-of-age moment for Bianca, signifying her acceptance of her heritage and her determination to chart her own path while honoring her father's legacy. Although Bianca did not pursue a professional career in martial arts as her father had done before transitioning to acting, she dedicated herself to the craft of combat sports for nearly 2 decades. Her commitment to training shaped her into a formidable martial artist endowed with the same speed, agility, and skill that characterized her father's iconic fighting style. Despite her undeniable talent and skills, Bianca had to face the omnipresent shadow of her father's fame, often confronted with preconceived notions and underestimations from others in the industry. Yet instead of letting these challenges discourage her, Bianca transformed them into a powerful source of motivation, fueling her determination to prove herself on her own merits. The chip on Bianca's shoulder, where everyone underestimates her, is a driving force behind her relentless pursuit of success. With every bold strike and flawless performance, she defies expectations and shatters stereotypes, emerging as a force to be reckoned with in her own right. Even as a legend, Van Damme faced moments of extreme public frustration and controversial media appearances. An incident occurred in Van Damme's life that made him extremely regretful. During an interview on the popular Australian morning show Sunrise, Van Damme's attitude shifted from enthusiastic promotion to palpable exasperation as he responded to questions he had ended up answering for years. Connecting by a video link from Bangkok, Van Damme found himself confronted with the same inquiries that had pursued him throughout his career, particularly regarding his relationship with Kylie Minogue. Despite his efforts to keep his cool, Van Damme's frustration became evident when he replied, "Yes, I love Kylie, I love everyone." It was clear he yearned for a more meaningful interaction with his audience, expressing his desire to engage in a natural conversation rather than rehashing exhausted topics. However, as the interview progressed, Van Damme's patience frayed. Feeling the repetition of familiar questions, he abruptly stated, "Sorry guys, I can't go on like this." His voice tinged with irritation, he expressed his dissatisfaction with the monotony of the questions posed by the press over the last quarter century, asserting his desire for a fresh approach to interacting with his audience. He emphasized his age, stating, "I'm 55 years old. With a decisive gesture, Van Damme removed his microphone and abruptly ended the link, leaving the interview in a whirlwind of frustration. As he left, he let out a series of curses directed at the situation and, by extension, Australia, a visceral outpouring of frustration and accumulated weariness. In 2017, Jean-Claude Van Damme found himself at the center of controversy after his participation in a commercial for the Australian car service company Ultratune. While the intention was perhaps to create a memorable and entertaining advertisement, the execution sparked widespread criticism and debate. The commercial, aired on television screens across Australia, featured a scenario filled with tension and danger. Two women dressed in skimpy outfits find themselves stranded with a flat tire in a poorly lit location at night. As they nervously wait for help, a gang of armed thugs approaches, instilling fear and apprehension in the women and the viewer. It seems a perilous encounter is inevitable until Jean-Claude Van Damme steps in to save the day. In a classic action movie twist, Van Damme's appearance signals a change in fortune for the women in distress. Instead of being victims, they find themselves rescued by the legendary Muscles from Brussels himself. However, the unexpected resolution of the commercial takes a comical turn when the potential attackers express their joy at meeting the famous action star. While the commercial was perhaps intended to be a light-hearted parody of action movie cliches, many viewers found its portrayal of gender dynamics and violence troubling. The depiction of two vulnerable women in distress dependent on a male savior to get them out of a potentially dangerous situation struck a chord with the public. Critics argued that the commercial perpetuated harmful stereotypes and normalized predatory behavior, reinforcing outdated notions of masculinity and female vulnerability. The backlash against the Ultratune commercial was swift and vehement. The Australian Advertising Standards Bureau, responsible for assessing complaints about advertisements, received an avalanche of reactions condemning the commercial's content. Viewers expressed concern about the normalization of predatory behavior and the perpetuation of gender stereotypes, arguing that such portrayals could have significant consequences on how society perceives violence against women. His career saw attempts at reinvention on the small screen, even as he battled his darkest personal demons. At the end of 2016, Amazon Prime shook up the entertainment landscape by unveiling its annual pilot program for potential television series, among which featured none other than Jean-Claude Van Damme himself. However, what surprised the audience was the genre of the show. It was not a heart-pounding thriller or a martial arts extravaganza. Instead, Van Damme embraced self-deprecation and comedic flair in Jean-Claude Van Johnson. In this bold departure from his usual roles, Van Damme adopted his own celebrity persona, portraying a fictionalized version of himself, Jean-Claude Van Johnson. The series followed the exploits of a washed-up action star who, in a twist of fate, turns out to be a secret agent operating under the cover of his Hollywood career. Retired from the spotlight, Van Johnson reinvents himself as a private investigator, using his martial arts skills and Hollywood connections to tackle espionage and intrigue. What set Jean-Claude Van Johnson apart was its irreverent humor and its willingness to poke fun at the cliches that defined Van Damme's legendary career. By embracing the absurdity of his own image, Van Damme delivered a self-aware performance that delighted audiences and critics alike. After the broadcast of the first pilot episode, viewers were invited to vote for their favorite pilot, thus determining which show would receive a full series order. The response to Jean-Claude Van Johnson was overwhelmingly positive, with viewers welcoming the show's unique blend of action, comedy, and meta-humor. Bolstered by this support, Amazon Prime committed to a first season of 6 episodes of the series. In December 2017, Jean-Claude Van Johnson made its official debut, marking a triumphant foray into the world of television for the iconic action star. With each episode, Van Damme showcased his comedic talents and his willingness to subvert audience expectations, giving a new impetus to his career with a fresh and innovative project. The excitement surrounding Jean-Claude Van Damme's foray into television with Jean-Claude Van Johnson was unfortunately short-lived, as the show met an abrupt end just weeks after its premiere. In a surprising turn of events, Amazon Prime decided to end the series, marking a disappointing setback for Van Damme's long-awaited return. Jean-Claude Van Damme's descent into a downward spiral of drug addiction and professional missteps marked a dark chapter in his life and career journey. Struggling with his personal demons and addiction, Van Damme found himself trapped in a destructive cycle fueled by cocaine, which he admitted to consuming at an alarming rate of 10 grams per day, an addiction that not only impacted his health, but also had a significant financial cost, amounting to approximately $10,000 per week. In the late 1990s, the consequences of Van Damme's drug addiction became increasingly evident. In 1999, he faced a DUI charge, a stark reminder of the consequences of his destructive habits. Despite attempts at rehabilitation, including a brief stay in rehab that lasted only 7 days, Van Damme struggled to break free from the grip of addiction. In the years that followed, he experienced periods of relapse, perpetuating a cycle of self-destructive behavior. The impact of Van Damme's addiction was strongly felt in his professional life, with his career trajectory taking an abrupt turn amidst these personal struggles. Van Damme's filmography during this period was marred by mediocre projects and insignificant performances. Many of these films were released direct to DVD with little or no theatrical release and failed to resonate with the audience. Between 1999 and 2008, Van Damme churned out no fewer than 14 films, most of which remained in obscurity, eclipsed by his earlier successes. The quality of these projects varied considerably, with critics and audiences dismissing them as uninspired and derivative. Van Damme's once lucrative career seemed to be in freefall, earning him the derisive nickname Jean-Claude Van Damme. Finally, we look at the mental health struggles and the legal battles that threatened his reputation as a fighter. Jean-Claude Van Damme's struggle with drug addiction was closely linked to his undiagnosed bipolar disorder, a condition that plagued him for years before receiving proper treatment. Individuals with undiagnosed bipolar disorder are particularly vulnerable to drug addiction, as they often seek solace or self-medicate to cope with the intense mood swings and emotional turmoil characteristic of the disorder. For Van Damme, dealing with the debilitating effects of bipolar disorder meant enduring years of inner turmoil and seeking refuge in destructive habits. Before his diagnosis, Van Damme found temporary respite from the chaos of his internal struggles through rigorous physical training, the discipline, and the structure provided by his training program. Van Damme's journey toward recovery was marked by moments of darkness and despair, including periods of suicidal ideation. Yet through unwavering determination and resilience, he found the strength to confront his inner demons and embark on the path to healing. Recognizing that true healing required addressing the root causes of his addiction, Van Damme underwent a profound transformation, confronting his insecurities and rebuilding his self-esteem from scratch. His decision to confront his cocaine addiction head-on by quitting overnight marked a decisive turning point in his recovery journey. With newfound clarity and sobriety, Van Damme began to rebuild his life, reconciling with his third wife and adopting a positive approach to managing his bipolar disorder. Van Damme's tragedy does not end there. In 1997, Frank Dux, the kickboxer whose life inspired Van Damme's breakout film Bloodsport, filed a lawsuit against the action star. Dux claimed that Van Damme had not compensated him for his contributions to the script of The Quest, a 1996 film in which Van Damme starred and directed. Initially seeking $50,000, Dux later increased his demand to a staggering $1.5 million. During the legal proceedings, Dux took the opportunity to undermine Van Damme's credibility as a fighter. He claimed that while training Van Damme for his role in Bloodsport, the star had demonstrated incompetence in basic martial arts techniques, such as the inability to perform a simple forward roll without getting injured. Dux went further to challenge Van Damme's claims regarding a real kickboxing career, asserting that the actor had misrepresented his martial arts exploits to the public. Despite Dux's damning allegations, the lawsuit ultimately failed. In a verdict delivered the following year, a jury declared Van Damme exonerated of any financial obligation, ruling in favor of the action star. For Dux, this legal defeat reflected the setback faced by the iconic fictional boxer Rocky Balboa early in his career, a comparison that highlighted Dux's determination to persevere despite obstacles. Although Dux expressed optimism about his intention to appeal, comparing his situation to Rocky's redemption journey, it seems such aspirations never materialized. The legal dispute, similar to Rocky's decision to retire and lead a quieter life outside the ring, seems to have reached its conclusion without further action from Ducks. If this story changed the way you look at the legends of the silver screen, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. We are unearthing the history they tried to bury. Plant the seeds for the future. The next treasure trove of stories will open soon.